My life might have been very different. If only I'd looked around me, taken in the wider view. If only I'd packed up early enough, as some did, and left the country. The country that I still foolishly thought was the same as the country to which I had for so many years belonged. Such regrets are of no practical use. I made choices, and then having made them, I had fewer choices. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one most traveled by. It was littered with corpses, as such roads are. But as you will have noticed, my own corpse is not among them. In that vanished country of mine, things had been on a downward spiral for years. The floods, the fires, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the droughts, the water shortages, the earthquakes. Too much of this, too little of that. The decaying infrastructure. Why hadn't someone decommissioned those atomic reactors before it was too late? The tanking economy, the joblessness, the falling birth rate. People became frightened, then they became angry. The absence of viable remedies, the search for someone to blame. Why did I think it would nonetheless be business as usual? Because we'd been hearing these things for so long, I suppose. You don't believe the sky is falling until a chunk of it falls on you.
Lydia's words there remind us how you have always drawn a connection between the misogynistic ultranationalism of somewhere like Gilead and environmental catastrophe. And it's a connection that you made in your Mad Adam trilogy as well. Why did you always see that link?
Because it's there. So when the environment is disturbed, what you're going to get is crop failures, or you're going to get less food, and sometimes less water, sometimes too much water, but you're going to get more chaos. And when you get more chaos and a less agreeable distribution of material goods, you're going to get social unrest, and that may morph into war, and social unrest and wars have always been bad for women, and may I add, children. They've always been particularly bad for them because people who want more can easily take the more from them, and sometimes they just take them, as we have seen in some sections of the world today. But this goes way back. So women and child stealing is a pretty old motif in human history.
Well, we heard in the amazing reading that Sally Hawkins did there, a daughter who's been told a fairy tale by her mother about how she got her. And throughout the book, you seem to play with these ideas of fairy tales. There's a Bluebeard idea. There's a sense of, in Lily James's reading, of someone like a princess being raised in a wilderness. Perhaps she's a fraud. What kind of identity does she really have? Why were fairy tales so useful to you in writing the Testament?
Or let's move this upside down and say, why are those kinds of fairy tales so persistent? Why have they been told and retold so often? Possibly they mirror something in the real world or something in the human psyche. But there are lots of tales from actual history that are like those fairy tales. Maybe that's why the fairy tales are the way they are. Could it be so? some of these things go pretty far back in storytelling tradition.
Transcript of Witness Testimony 369A. You have asked me to tell you what it was like for me when I was growing up within Gilead. You say it will be helpful, and I do wish to be helpful. I imagine you expect nothing but horrors, but the reality is that many children were loved and cherished, in Gilead as elsewhere. And many adults were kind, though fallible, in Gilead as elsewhere. I hope you'll remember too that we all have some nostalgia for whatever kindness we have known as children, however bizarre the conditions of that childhood may seem to others. I agree with you that Gilead ought to fade away. There is too much of wrong in it, too much that is false, and too much that is surely contrary to what God intended. But you must permit me some space to mourn the good that will be lost. At our school, pink was for spring and summer, plum was for fall and winter, white was for special days, Sundays and celebrations. Arms covered, hair covered, skirts down to the knee before you were 5, and no more than 2 inches above the ankle after that. Because the urges of men were terrible things, and those urges needed to be curbed. The man eyes were always roaming here and there like the eyes of tigers. Those searchlight eyes needed to be shielded from the alluring and indeed blinding power of us, of our shapely or skinny or fat legs, of our graceful or knobbly or sausage arms, of our peachy or blotchy skins, of our entwining curls of shining hair, or our coarse, unruly pelts, or our straw-like wispy braids, it did not matter. Whatever our shapes and features, we were snares and enticements, despite ourselves. We were the innocent and blameless causes that through our very nature could make men drunk with lust, so that they'd stagger and lurch and topple over the verge. The verge of what, we wondered? Was it like a cliff? And go plunging down in flames, like snowballs made of burning sulfur hurled by the angry hand of God? We were the custodians of an invaluable treasure that existed unseen inside us. We were precious flowers that had to be kept safely inside glass houses, or else we would be ambushed, and our petals would be torn off, and our treasure would be stolen, and we would be ripped apart and trampled by the ravenous men who might lurk around any corner, out there in the wide, sharp-edged, sin-ridden world. That was the kind of thing that runny-nosed Aunt Fidela would tell us at school while we were doing petty-point embroidery for handkerchiefs and footstools and framed pictures. Flowers in a vase, fruit in a bowl were the favoured patterns. But Aunt Esty, the children we liked best, the teacher we liked the best, would say Aunt Fidela was overdoing it, and there was no point in frightening us out of our wits, since to instill such an aversion might have a negative influence on the happiness of our future married lives. All men are not like that, girls, she would say soothingly. The better kind have superior characters. Some of them have decent self-restraint. And once you are married, it will seem quite different to you, and not very fearsome at all. Not that she would know anything about it. Since the aunts were not married, they were not allowed to be. That was why they could have writing and books. We and your fathers and your mothers will choose your husbands wisely for you when the time comes, Aunt Esther would say. So you don't need to be afraid. Just learn your lessons and trust your elders to do what is best, and everything will unfold as it should. I will pray for it. But despite Aunt Esther's dimples and friendly smile, it was Aunt Fidella's version that prevailed. It turned up in my nightmares. The shattering of the glass house, then the rending and tearing and the trampling of hooves, with pink and white and plum fragments of myself scattered over the ground. I dreaded the thought of growing older, older enough for a wedding. I had no faith in the wise choices of the aunts. I feared I would end up married to a goat on fire. The pink, the white, and the plum dresses were the rule for special girls, like us. Ordinary girls from the Econo families wore the same thing all the time. Those grey, multicolored stripes and grey cloaks, like the clothes of their mothers. They did not even learn pettipoint embroidery or crochet work, just plain sewing and the making of paper flowers and other such chores. They were not pre-chosen to be married to the very best men, to the sons of Jacob, to the sons of Jacob and the other commanders or their sons. Not like us. Or they might get to be chosen once they were older, if they were pretty enough. Nobody said that. You were not supposed to preen yourself on your good looks. It was not modest, or take any notice of the good looks of other people. Though we girls knew the truth. It was better to be pretty than ugly. Even the aunts paid more attention to the pretty ones. But if you were already pre-chosen, being pretty didn't matter so much. I didn't have a squint like Huldah, or a pinchy built-in frown like Shunammite, and I didn't have barely there eyebrows like Becca. But I was unfinished. I had a dough face, like the cookies my favorite Martha Zilla made for me as a treat, with raisin eyes and pumpkin seed teeth. But though I was not especially pretty, I was very, very chosen. Doubly chosen. Not only pre-chosen to marry a commander, but chosen in the first place by Tabitha, who was my mother. That is what Tabitha used to tell me. I went for a walk in a forest, she would say. And then I came to an enchanted castle, and there were lots of little girls locked inside, and none of them had any mothers, and they were under the spell of the wicked witches. I had a magic ring that unlocked the castle, but I could only rescue one little girl. So I looked at them all very carefully, and then out of the whole crowd, I chose you. What happened to the others, I would ask, the other little girls? Different mothers rescued them, and she would say, did they have magic rings too? Of course, my darling. In order to be a mother, you need to have a magic ring. Where's the magic ring, I would ask. Where is it now? It's right here on my finger, she would say, indicating the third finger of her left hand, the heart finger, she said it was. But my ring only had one wish in it, and I used that one up on you. So now it's an ordinary, everyday mother ring. At this point, I was allowed to try on the ring, which was gold, with 3 diamonds in it, a big one and a smaller one on either side. It did look as though it might have been magic once. Did you lift me up and carry me, I would ask, out of the forest? I knew the story off by heart. I liked to hear it repeated. No, my dearest, you're already too big for that. If I had carried you, I would have coughed, and then the witches would have heard us. I could see this was true. She did cough quite a lot. So I took you by the hand, and we crept out of the castle so the witches wouldn't hear us. We both said, shh, shh. Here she would hold her finger up to her lips, and I would hold my finger up too, and say, shh, shh, delightedly. And then we had to run very fast through the forest to get away from the wicked witches, because one of them had seen us going out the door. We ran, and then we hid in a hollow tree. It was very dangerous. I did have a hazy memory of running through a forest with someone holding my hand. Had I hidden in a hollow tree? It seemed to me that I had hidden somewhere. So maybe it was true. And then what happened, I would ask. And then I brought you to this beautiful house. Aren't you happy here? You are so cherished by all of us. Aren't we both lucky that I chose you? I would be nestled close to her, with her arm around me, and my head against her thin body, through which I could feel her bumpy ribs. My ear would be pressed to her chest, and I could hear her heart hammering away inside. Faster and faster, it seemed to me, as she waited for me to say something. I knew my answer had power. I could make her smile or not. What could I say but yes, and yes. Yes, I was happy. Yes, I was lucky. Anyway, it was true.